Wyrd Realities explores the paranormal, preternatural, and supernatural worlds that surround us. Here we delve into those topics that challenge us to think outside the limitations of realism, where we test the boundaries of imagination and are forced to think outside the confines and restrictions of what is normal. We are the creators, the writers, the artists, and the insane. Welcome to our Wyrd Realities.
Welcome to Wyrd Realities' newest segment, Wyrd Murders, Mysteries, and Mayhem. I'm author Hadley Thorne, and I'm here with my co-host, behavioral health professional Jenn Salmons. And joining us for today's panel are on serial killer Ed Kemper, our fiction authors Joseph Hansen and Alan Gamboa. Now, Jenn, can you tell everyone why you selected Ed Kemper to kick off this new segment?
Well, I probably selected him mostly because of watching the show that he was covered on Netflix. And basically, I just was fascinated by him. He was one of the biggest serial killers I ever saw. And I had heard some of the things he'd done, but I have done a lot of research on him. And, I'm sorry, the series is Mindhunters. Blah. But basically, I didn't know a lot about him. And although, I'd heard his mom wasn't the nicest person, I heard she was more somebody that was kind of naggy. I didn't understand some of the abuse that had occurred. But again, this is from him, and he has known to lie or exaggerate about certain things. But then again, he also probably underplayed some of the killings that he had done. I have some background information on him that I can start with to kind of give you guys the lowdown on him. He was born Edmund Emil Kemper III. Yes, there were two others before him, which I didn't know that part, in 1948 in Burbank. And his parents split up when he was about 1, and his mom moved to Montana. She got remarried 2 different times, so he had stepdads in there, but those aren't really reported on, and I didn't find much information on them. When he was about 10 was the first time that he killed, and he killed a cat. He buried the cat alive, the first one, and then he unburied it and decapitated it and put it on a pike and paraded it around, is my understanding.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard this?
Yes.
I heard that.
Okay.
Dug it up to play with it.
Yeah, he did it again when he was 13. He killed another family cat, and this cat seemed to favor his older sister. And there's some speculation as to why that might be, what some motivation was behind that. Shortly after that, they started talking a little bit about 2 life-threatening events that occurred with him that they thought may have something to do with him being not very, mentally healthy. The first one was his sister tried to push him in front of a train, which I thought that was interesting. And the second one was his sister threw him into the deep end of the pool, and he didn't know how to swim, and he almost drowned.
Now, was that the same sister?
Yes. He has 2 sisters. One is older, one is younger.
Well.
Yes. And about 14 or 15, he ran away from home because mom was pretty abusive and cruel. Would lock him in the basement and those kind of things. And he ran away to his dad's, who still lived in California. And at that time, when he went there, my understanding is his new wife, dad's new wife, was creeped out by him. So he sent them to live with grandparents, his paternal grandparents.
Now, I couldn't find much about the reasons behind the new wife's reaction to him. I just saw her, she said she had migraines, but that was kind of just not really proven.
Right. I didn't find a lot of information on it either. I just know that Dad didn't want him there anymore. And so he got a hold of grandparents. There is one report that I found that said he actually did go to back to his mom's, like he shipped him back to Mom, and then Mom sent him to the paternal grandparents, which I don't know if I believe that or not. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. But who knows? That could have very well happened. So he's there for about a year. And in that time, he kills Grandma after a verbal argument with her, and then waits for Grandpa to get home from like doing some, mundane task, and kills him right away. And then later on, it was highly reported, that he basically said, I just wanted to know what it'd feel like to kill Grandma, which I thought that was so cold and scary for a 15-year-old. And that was in 1964. The court had him like evaluated, and they thought he had paranoid schizophrenia. So they sent him off to the mental health facility that was maximum security. At the facility, he was found to not have like delusions, and he didn't have any psychosis that they could see, disorganized thinking, those kind of things that would commonly go with schizophrenia. So they changed his diagnosis to personality trait disturbance with passive aggressive traits. And that's just basically saying, nope, he's not psychotic. Well, I don't know what it would take to kill your grandparents, but I'm guessing it's nothing good. And that's not very passive to, shoot them both.
He made the claim that he killed his grandpa because he didn't want his grandpa to feel the pain of seeing his grandmother dead.
And be disappointed in him.
That was what he
kind
reported.
of odd.
Or be mad at him.
Well, apparently the grandfather had a weak heart, too. He thought that, which makes no sense. But seeing Grandma, like, in the state she was in, might make him have a heart attack. So it was better just to kill him, put him out of his misery.
Right.
Much better to be killed by your grandson.
Yeah.
Made him feel better, probably, in his own mind.
Well, Alan, I wanted to ask you, because you do have the experience in the California penal system, if you had ever had any dealings with or knew anyone who had dealings with Kemper.
No. I knew guys that worked at CMF that transferred over and stuff, but nobody ever brought him up. I mean, we had guys that did crap like that where we worked, but nobody is like Kemper,
Well, it scared me watching him on these interviews because he's so not crazy sounding. Yeah.
Well, that's how they are. That's how a lot of them are.
Yeah, kind of normal. Yes. You can see where behind his words, there's always a way that makes it not really his fault. Yeah, he did these things,
but it was his mom.
Things, but if you would have been there, if you would have known, and he like always leaves himself an out to where he can say, I'm not such a bad guy. I'm a victim of these circumstances. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I'm wrong in that, but that was my interpretation.
It does seem like that. And I know him and Grandma had verbal altercations, but it wasn't like she was locking him in the basement or anything like that. And so for him to do that at 15, that's pretty huge. And he ended up getting, but in that time when he was in there, he learned like to work the system basically. And he convinced them how normal he actually was. He first tested as an IQ of 136, but then it was actually at 145 because he was so highly intelligent. He was given the permission by the people, the psychologists there, to help administer other psychological testing on other inmates there. Like he was an assistant. Like I was like,
that's so crazy.
What?
But in reality, I mean, I know people want to have faith in the penal system, but can you really say that somebody is cured of being a murderer in 6 years? when they're in their developmental years. You know, I
No.
mean, he's 21. Your brain isn't
Right.
even at its full size until you're what, 25, 27? You know,
Right.
so I just,
And we just found that out a few years ago that it's not fully developed until that time. And so, yeah, definitely how they possibly could have known to change the diagnosis and those kind of things. I don't know, but
right. It just,
definitely has that cluster B, which is like all your personality disorder things, like your antisocial, Ted Bundy stuff. Definitely.
And everybody thinks 6 years is a long time, but you know, if you live in a house for a while, all of a sudden you're like, 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
So 6 years is not a long time for someone who's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21.
No, especially for a double murder.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Right.
crazy. I mean,
and
your what do you call that?
Yeah.
That's not patricide or matricide. What would you call killing your grandparents? Isn't that?
I don't know. And it was his paternal grandparents.
Right.
So it's not Petra grandparent side.
Yeah.
Grandpa side.
Yeah.
Grandpa side.
Grandpa side.
There you go.
Peepaw side.
He was actually released when he was 21, on the day he turned 21 in 1969. So, and they recommended he not go back to mom's. But guess what he did?
Yeah, he went back to mom's.
Yeah. I can imagine that, because I know people that worked at CMF, and I worked in a psych unit for 15 years at Pelican Bay, and they didn't start doing a lot of progressive psych stuff until the late 80s. So CMF, I can only imagine what kind of, they had the psych available at the day, you know, what they had at the day, at that time. And it was the prison's basically a psych prison. There's some general population there, but it's basically a psych prison. And that's where they would shove all these mental issue people they had. So I imagine there wasn't a whole lot of rehabilitation. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Well, I think it's interesting that, you know, in today's society, there's a lot of leniency towards children that perform these types of murders. But you have to, I mean, obviously, I think we're all a little bit older, but I kind of think if you killed both your grandparents, you might not deserve to get out anytime soon.
No, I agree.
Considering the other signs, you know, the dead cats is kind of a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Even the headless dolls, you know, that's all kind of stuff that I had two sisters, and boy, if I would have tore a head off a doll, I probably wouldn't have survived, you know.
But back there,
Jody's Barbies, oh my God, no way.
Well, back then they looked at it as weird.
Barbies were new back then. You got to realize Barbies were new back then.
Well, and they looked at it as weird. Now you look at it now, and you see a kid that's doing that to animals, or something clicks in your head, thinking, you know, what's going on here? You know, back then you just thought the kid's a weird kid, you know.
Yeah.
Now we know more.
Right.
Well, now doesn't it flag you for the FBI if you are someone that has a history of abusing animals?
I think it does if you get caught doing it.
Yeah, but, you know, the animals is usually one of the biggest indicators.
They implied that everybody he killed was just warming up so that the day he killed his mother, and you know, I suppose there's some truth to that, but I have a hard time buying it. You know, I think he was born to kill, and he would have never been satisfied if he would have killed his mother first. He would have gone on to other people.
Well, I told y'all, I think the fact his mom was locking him in the basement, I think that says a lot. I mean,
you know,
you can be a bad mom, but
you could look at the mom and blame it on her, but why did she feel that need?
Yeah.
Right. To protect
if she did that, like Jennifer
probably a cousin stay over that she never did that to, but to him, it's like, you know, why did she feel that need? And she had been married several times, so she obviously knew a little bit about men, but I don't know. That you're right. That's very telltale. You know, telltales on her being a bad mother, and a telltales on him for, what the fuck, dude? Oh, pardon if I can't swear.
You can swear. When he was 15 years old, he was 6'4".
Yeah.
And I saw where he wanted to be a cop because once he got out of the crazy house, he wanted to be a policeman because
But he ended up being 6'9", and he was too big.
Yeah, too big to be a policeman.
See, I don't understand that. I keep reading about that, and that does not make sense. To me, it doesn't, because you think you want more beef out there, than
that's what I kind of thought of too. I was like, what?
No.
Okay, I guess.
I've wondered about this, but how could somebody who committed a double homicide when he was a minor ever be a cop?
Well, that too. That
it was
he was
expunged
expunged, though.
Yeah, because he was a minor.
But they probably knew about him, because that had to have been big news.
Oh, yeah.
Back then. So I'm thinking they just didn't want to hire him.
Well,
and he
the
lied.
lived on a secluded farm out in the middle of nowhere. So they weren't like in the midst of things. Where Mom moved back to California when he was released from the hospital at 21, she was back in California. She wasn't in Montana, and the grandparents had passed away, and they were in the outskirts of, I can't even remember. But what's interesting is he had to request to get his records expunged. I found this out. Actually, I found this out just today.
Wow.
He had already killed 3 people, 3 women, 3 co-eds, because he is the co-ed butcher or killer. He had killed 3 women at that point, and it was very close to that time. And like that very next day, he ended up going in and asking his caseworkers to have his records expunged. So at 21, seriously, they expunged his records, and he'd already killed 3 people at that point.
Wow. That's so crazy.
Can you imagine if he had become a policeman?
Oh, I don't
would
know
have been
about it.
Yeah.
But that's another thing is you would think that one of those policemen that he was buddies with would have picked up on the fact that he was a serial killer. That's how hidden in plain sight he was. Yeah,
and they probably thought he was kind of strange. He probably bought them beer, fed their egos a little bit. And so they thought, this guy, he's weird, but, I can tell my stories to him.
He's harmless.
Yeah, he's hard. Yeah, exactly. So you're right. He did hide in plain sight.
He could come
really
off
good
as
at
harmless.
Pretending
to
be harmless.
Yeah, because John Douglas said.
Cordial.
Yeah, because John Douglas said he wasn't threatening. I mean, when he first came out, he was huge, and John Douglas is like 6'2". But he said the guy made you feel like he'd been bullied, and he wasn't the bully. So he was good at manipulating, and John Douglas knew that too. But he's good at manipulating.
Well, Kemper was a genius. I mean,
yes.
And the Department of Corrections gave him the tools to be able to manipulate, by letting him be in on these testing these other inmates. And then the inmates, this I thought was smart, and it's horrible, was the inmates saying, you see this now, where the guys that were like rapists, child molesters and stuff, they told me, you kill your victim. Because you see that now. That always happens. These guys will rape, molest, whatever. They'll go to prison for a while, but get out. But they didn't kill their victims. That's how they got caught usually. And then next time they do it, they're killing their victims. So he learned that right off the bat. I'll kill my victims, and he cut the bodies up, whatever. Of course, they didn't have DNA and everything that they have now. All the CSI. So he got away with it. If he hadn't turned himself in.
But
he would have got away with it for a lot
after they
longer.
were dead, correct?
Yeah. Yes, after they were dead. He's a weirdo.
Well, he left a note for the police.
Yeah.
After he killed his mom and the best friend.
He was disappointed there wasn't a manhunt.
He left a note there. There wasn't a manhunt for him. So he's like, wait a minute, nobody's coming after me. So let me just go call. He called 3 different times, because the first 2 times they thought he was not serious. Thought he was like joking. And so the third time he asked to speak to a specific officer that he knew would listen to him and say, hey, I'm Ed from the bar, that you hang out with him. I was like, okay. Yeah, that was interesting. Okay, so did anybody hear anything about? He worked for the Highway Patrol Department. Am I?
No, the Department of Transportation, like worked on the highway and stuff.
Road crews.
Like road crews and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
was
he worked
like,
for.
wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I forgot what they call it in California. They call it, every state has a different name for their road people.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I thought
one of the things that I saw was about how when he was a child, he had gone to see a magician, and they had like a guillotine. And so this girl got called up from the audience, and she went up there, and they put her in the little thing with her head there and her arms there, through the guillotine thing. And then the blade came down and supposedly chopped off her head.
Oh.
And that they were thinking that might be where he got the cutting off the head and the arms from.
Jeez, I never saw that. I
didn't read about that. Ugh.
Well, I saw a couple of things about the magician. He was telling the story, and it was like you could tell it was really meant something to him. And then later, I saw someone else go, "Oh, that makes sense now with the head and the guillotine thing."
Well, like when Joe and I were younger, they used to have our kids. They used to have the True Detective magazines, and I forgot where they would have a lady semi-clad in bondage, tied up, lady in peril, and it'd be, these true crime stories, and some were fiction, but they always had those on the cover. And a lot of killers from that time, the ones that did sex crimes and stuff like that, they read those, they looked at those. The bondage of the women influenced them, and it made them escalate what they were doing. Well, it didn't make them, but it gave them an idea to escalate to,
right.
I mean, because you do what you're going to do. There's nothing, I could look at Joe and he can't make me do anything. You got to want to do it.
Wouldn't even try.
Well,
I'm just kidding, Joe. You can make me do anything.
No, man. I could make you have a drink with me if we're in the same city. I know that.
There you go.
Another weird thing that he did as a child, and there's a couple of weird games that he would play with his sisters, but one of them, they played gas chamber, which is kind of weird, and he also would get his sisters to tie him up to a chair, and they would play electric chair, and he would pretend like he was getting electrocuted. And the third thing was they had this old rug, and they would wrap one of them up. And he really enjoyed watching the sisters struggle to get out of the wrapped up rug. And I thought that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a lot about this guy that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's face it, there's no kinda about it. He is a creepy dude.
He's definitely
a
monster.
creepy large man.
Yeah, he's definitely a monster.
Yes.
And I don't think there was just something. There was a wire that was missing in his brain when he was born or something. But, if it wasn't the whole family thing surrounding it, he would be in the news some way, somehow.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be good. He just.
Well, one of the interviews, they asked him how many people would he have killed, because he was talking about how he was building up towards the co-ed killings. That he was just seeing if he could do it, if he could just get people in his car. And he said that it would have been thousands because so many people would get in his car. And he started talking about how, he would drive a 2-door car. So, and he said that he would stop and he could watch some of these girls. Like there was, I think the 2 that he killed the first time, the one that got in the back, he said he could see her thinking, well, I can't get out of there easy. My friend's going to have to let me out. But he would act like he was in a rush to go somewhere and act like he was looking at his watch. And that he goes, for whatever reason, that clue would make the women get in the car just to know that he was rushed. And that's so, I don't think that way, but it scares me that people do.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and hitchhiking was a big thing back in the day. I mean, I did it all over the city. I mean, Minneapolis isn't as tough as, say, California, but, you know, we still stuck our thumb out and hitchhiked everywhere.
I remember we were in the Antioch in the Bay Area. We were in my uncle's El Camino. My uncle was up front. My dad was up front, and I was I got to sit in the middle seat of the El Camino, and my two cousins were in the back, and there was a camper shell on the El Camino. Well, my uncle, he was a real asshole. He pulls over, picks up this hitchhiker, and this skanky looking dude, and lets him get in the back with my two cousins. And I was thinking that day, I'm glad I'm up here. And he gave the guy a ride to wherever, and my cousins' eyes were like this big, were huge the whole ride, you know. And I this whole time there, I was thinking, thank God I'm up here. But anyway, that could have been, you know.
Well, in 1972, it wasn't even really thought about in that way. I mean, it wasn't thought to be like it's life or death, even though girls were taught don't do that. But you know, if Heather, I can see you and I ended up in a barrel just like that. Like back then, it would have been normal for us to go, let's stick our tongue out and get the ride to the recovery room or wherever we were going to go. If we didn't have a car, for sure we would have.
The recovery room was a bar. It was not the actual ER.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, what's sad is Joe and I could put out our thumbs, and 99% of the time we'll get where we're going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Women, you two put your thumbs out, and there's a 50-50 chance you'll get where you're going without something happening to you, or at least a lewd comment, or you know, some other lewd. It's really crazy.
Back then, Alan and I could have hitchhiked any time of day or night and not had a problem with it, you know. But yeah, women have always drawn the short end of the stick in that sense. It disgusts me that a woman can't go walk through a park at night or walk through a city block.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just,
or go to a store. You know, go to a store without.
We park in underneath the lights for a reason. Like, go down dark alleys and park there. That's the closest spot to the front. That's where I'm parking. But I'm like, that's not me.
I get it.
Good safety.
I get it. And I wish there was something I could do to prevent all that. But, you know, people are going to be people. And people suck.
Well,
I
interesting.
think it's not about men changing it. I think it's something our mothers instilled. Don't you, Heather? Like, I just remember if we were in a dark area or a dark parking lot leaving the mall or whatever it was, my mom would just grab me a little bit closer and just pull my hand a little bit tighter.
Bad things happen to women.
I know I've told you this, but like my first trip away from home as an 18-year-old, my mother told me, you just remember Ted Bundy looked like a nice guy too. Those were the words she sent me off with. So I'm paranoid. I got it straight from my mom.
No monsters coming all faces.
Let me ask you all a question. I said you all because you guys are from the South, and I knew you'd understand that term. Alan, y'all means everybody.
Well, my wife always says y'all. You know, always says y'all.
So anyway,
she's from California.
People like Kemper, people like Ted Bundy, do you think they can be cured? Do you think they can be rehabilitated?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
They're like child molesters, rapists. It's all about power and control.
Yeah. There are some people who I think
are just a waste. They'll never be cured.
Yeah, there's some people I think are broken by life and become that way, but there are some people I think are just born mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you know these guys, right? They fantasize about what they're doing. You know, that's not the normal person's fantasy.
Get this. At the same time, Ed Kemper was killing these people around Santa Cruz. There were 2 other serial killers around Santa Cruz. So, yeah, like they were talking about people.
Still live there? No,
I don't. Alan might.
No. I lived on the other side. We live like 8 hours away from Santa Cruz on the other part of the coast.
Okay.
But they were like finding heads, and it was, I guess, some of them were Kempers, and some were these other 2. I can't think of the other 2 murderers.
Green River, maybe.
No.
Shoot, was it the 2 guys?
Yeah, it was 2 guys.
Charles Ng and was it No, they were a little bit later, right? Charles
Yeah, they were
Ng?
later.
Yeah.
There were two though.
There were two guys because they did
John Fraser, maybe.
And the Zodiac Killer was kind of near the end
Zodiac
of
was
that,
around
right?
that time too.
Near the end of that.
But they were calling it the murder capital of the world.
Oh yeah, that like Charles Ng and the other guy, a buddy of mine I worked with, his brother-in-law, because it was a small county where it happened at. They had to have county workers look at the videotapes because these guys would videotape their deviancies, and their murders, and everybody had to have psychiatric help afterwards. They had it was just that horrible. He said it was just horrible watching.
Was that the guys with the van?
Well, I think they had a van, but they had a cabin up in the woods, and it was like a bunker.
It's just like a torture chamber. And the things that, they've shown some of that video even on TV. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, it's horrible, Heather.
And they caught the one guy, he was stealing something, and they caught him. I think it was Ng they caught. One guy killed himself, and Ng, I believe they caught him and tried him, and he's sitting on death row, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move real quick through the rest of the stuff just so we can get to it because we got to get back to the murders of Mr. Kemper. Mr. Charming and Wonderful Mr. Kemper. Okay, so September of 1972 was when he first killed the two females. And, it's often quoted that he only killed 10 people. I'm not sure if I believe that. I know that's what he said, but I'm thinking all those heads that were turning up, he might have had a little something to do with some of that. I was thinking, I don't know. Then there was the 15-year-old that he did the same year. And it was like the next day he convinced his caseworkers to expunge his record from his childhood so he could get a better job, according to him. In January of 1973, that's when he killed Mom. But before he did that, he did another murder that she was 18 years old and he decapitated her. He brought her body back and to the house.
Yeah, that's the one that he buried under his mom's window, isn't it? Her head?
Because
that girl's head, yeah.
And he said she always wanted people looking up to her, so now she always had somebody looking up to her.
Yeah.
Which creep. And he decapitated both of those women. The 20 and the 23-year-old was the next one. That was in February of 1973. And then when he was 24 and Mom was 52, that's when he killed Mom. The next night, he invites her best friend over and asks her over for dinner. And then he strangles her, decapitates her. But he slept in the bed with their bodies, basically, or slept with them in the house, at least.
Well,
with them being dead. And I'm not sure how much is reported on that part of it, but I'm sure you guys have some other good details related to it.
Oh,
what he did with Mom's head.
Yeah. He raped her head. That's just awful to say.
He cut
that's what he did with a lot of them.
And put it in the dishwasher, the sink disposal, right?
Yes, and it
couldn't crush it up.
He tried to crush it up, but he said, I found it funny that it wouldn't do it. And he goes, that pretty much is very telling when it comes to her and her mouth. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I will say that I saw where his father had said that suicide missions and atomic bomb testing were not as bad as his mother's mouth.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's gotta be horrible.
Yeah, but then why did you go back to her after you got out of prison? People told you not to.
This is what his father said.
His father said that.
I know, but I know that's what his father said. But it just seems, if she's so bad, why did he keep going?
Who knows why people do that kind of stuff? They go back to environments where they're abused. It's just human nature, I guess. To
want your mom or parents' love.
Yeah.
Well, you see it in abusive relationships too. Girls going after to the asshole that beat her. And
yeah, I mean, and you can't just say, "Oh, why'd you go back?" You know, because you can't, because it's just not that easy. You know, if things were easy, we'd all be rich and happy and living good lives with people we want to be with. You know.
Right.
So,
wait,
you know, I mean, I'm not saying that. That's not my. I'm just saying.
Not the happy I'm with someone I want to be with. So I got it.
What I mean is
6%.
Yeah, right. It's no, but life is messy and sticky and hurts, you know,
much
and
like
painful.
Much like his mom's blood.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So all those
Hadley.
sensitive questions mean that nothing ever gets resolved. I mean, if you can't ask someone, why the hell did you go back to them?
You can.
You know, I found it interesting.
Like
He decapitated mom, and he literally put it on a stick and then yelled at it for, I guess, an hour or so, or maybe more, and threw darts at it. I don't know if you guys read about that.
Yeah.
I did hear about the darts.
Why did he call her friend over, though? I mean,
yeah, that's what I didn't understand
anything
about the friend
until he called her over specifically.
Yeah, he called the friend over the next night because he thought that the friend looked down on him. He described her as snobby and always caring about like your social status, and believed that had something to do with why mom became like that so much.
That's a reason to kill somebody, definitely.
Right. No, I'm certainly not saying that. But that was his motivation according to him. Because I know a lot of snobby people I don't plan on killing. Although, you know, might have thoughts, but not like that.
What if you just have snobby moments?
Right?
But what's interesting is he went out for drinks with the cops the night that he did that to his mom. So he beats mom to death with he beats her head with a hammer and decapitates her and does all that. And then that next day, he goes out and drinks with his friends at the bar across the street from the courthouse. He'd go to the same bar so he could hang out with his cop friends and talk with them. Then he invites the friend over that night for dinner. And that's when he does the friend. Then the next morning is when he left the note for the cops. I was like,
and he said that he was, I mean, obviously he was hanging out with the cops because he had cop envy, but that he also would get information from them. And that was another thing he would do with these hitchhikers he would pick up, these co-eds, is he would get information about what they thought the killer was like. And he would kind of change his behavior if they were picking up on stuff that he was doing. I mean, evil genius comes. I mean, he was an evil genius. It was.
Yes. He got off on being smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is, you know, if he could outsmart someone and use their gullibility to get what he wanted, then he was
smartest guy in the room.
You know, flattering himself and.
Well, what do y'all think about him helping the FBI profilers when they started that profile section?
I think he liked to hear his own voice.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of that was ego. I think most of that was ego driven.
Yeah.
I think he could probably care less about if they caught, you know, killers or not. It was mostly, I think, his ego.
Well, what do you think about him saying that he turned himself in because he didn't want to be walking the streets like that? Do you think that's bullshit?
I think that's bullshit. It was time to throw it in the cop's face. All these people that were his buddies and treated him like he was a second-class citizen because he could never wear a uniform like them. He's now throwing it in their face. Yeah, I was killing these people all along, and you were buying me a drink, you stupid motherfucker.
Yeah, and no one knew it was him doing it, and he wanted people to know it was him doing it.
I think y'all are right.
You know, the only pushback I'll have on that is that he left a note. He didn't, like, that seems very like he said, I want it to stop. And to me, that speaks to, I think he might have really wanted to stop doing it, but at the same time,
I don't think so. I think it was time to call him out.
Okay.
I mean, your opinion, that's fine. You're the expert, so you're probably right.
No, I am not the expert. No. Not at all. I just was saying that I thought it was interesting that he did leave a note and then had to call back 3 times before they'd actually believe him.
Yeah, that kind of reinforces what I'm saying, though. Where it's time for him to get caught. You know,
it's like someone that
you guys are saying. I'm gonna leave you a freaking note here, and then I'm gonna go call until I get some guy who has half a brain.
Well, they say that, you know, which I've been watching a lot of true crime stuff lately, but that they usually want to be involved in like the manhunt or in finding the body or in, you know, that some part of them wants to get caught and will do things to kind of put them in a situation to do it. And I guess he was doing that, but no one was listening.
Yeah. One of the cops that caught him said that he could see in him that he wanted to be normal. And I disagree with that as well. I think he wanted to appear normal. He wanted to be accepted as normal because that made him more dangerous. That made what he said easier.
It definitely made him more dangerous because, I mean, nobody looks at Charles Manson and thinks, oh, that guy's normal. I mean, we all know he is just completely not right. And he acts not right. And he acts a little crazy. And I was wondering, like, that whole little man thing, like Charles Manson's got the little man thing, like the crazier I act, the more people stay away from me. Like Ed Kemper didn't have that at all. He was always the big guy at the
No, he didn't have that at all.
Well, did you see where when he was in the 2nd grade, he stalked his 2nd grade teacher?
Oh yeah.
With the bayonet? I mean, that's like it seemed like there were some red flags all along.
I will tell you from experience, you know, I was 220 pounds in 8th grade and 35 pounds at 10 months and topped out at 308. And I've always been over 6 foot. And there are a certain type of person who automatically feel that because you are bigger, you're dumb. You're not as smart. And I'm thinking him being 6'9", he probably suffered through that on a Magnus level more than I would have, you know, where a lot of people just automatically, you know, he's big and dumb.
Big old dude.
I heard the term big and dumb. And so that could have been a factor in his, you know, now I'm going to show everybody that I'm smarter than they are, you know.
Well, what's interesting to me, I want to read the quote again because we didn't read it. I read it to you, Heather, but I also think it's interesting. And then talk a little bit about the fact that he came up for parole. His first parole hearing was in 1979. But he was asked by an interviewer, you know, what do you see when you look? What do you think? What are you thinking to yourself when you see a pretty girl walking down the street? And it says, one side of me is saying, wow, what an attractive chick. I'd like to talk to her, date her. The other side of me says, I wonder how her head would look on a stick. And I mean, that's pretty honest. That's good. That he's being honest about that. And then when he came up for parole the first time in 1979, now these all occurred in the 70s. So I'm thinking, what did they think they had done rehabilitation in 79? Anyway,
no, it's a process when you get, because he got life. He didn't get life without, right? He got life. I believe because they commuted.
No, when he was 15.
Yeah.
He's been eligible.
No, he didn't get life. He got. He determined he was insane and sent him to a mental correctional facility.
I thought he got like 10 life sentences because they couldn't, because California wasn't doing the death penalty.
That was when he turned himself in at the end.
Right.
Yeah, that's what what I'm talking about.
They're running them congruently,
right?
Consecutively, because he even got off on explaining that to someone. No, you're wrong.
But
consecutive is one after another. They can't do that. It was real kind of condescending. Condescending is when you
tell people,
Well, yeah.
Well, I was going to say about the parole process is it's a process where they have to have it, whether they're going to let you go or not.
Right.
You still have to have your say. Hey, I'm reformed. I went to all these church services. I teach,
Right.
other inmates how to make belt out of human flesh.
Was wrong, that kind of stuff. Well, he
Right.
has basically said, if you let me back out, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
And in 1985, he basically rejected them and said he's waiving his right to a parole hearing. He doesn't want to go. And the attorney that was representing him actually said he is very happy with his life in prison. He doesn't want to get out.
Well, if you don't have a lot of problems in prison, it's not bad. If you don't have to join a gang, people leave you alone, and you're not a people person like him,
right?
They got a good gig. They've got their cable TV. They can take classes. They can go to Yard. If you have money on your books, which I don't know if he has money, if he gets any kind of money from anywhere, but you can buy.
He's got 9 million fans that
well,
probably send him money.
Yeah. They do that with Manson.
Yes. I mean, people need to pick better role models, right?
Yeah. I don't get it. I've never understood
He's not a terrible looking guy. I mean, he's not an attractive guy. Don't hear me wrong. I'm not like dating him or anything. But like, he's not a terrible looking man. So I'm sure he's got those women that just like to date prisoners.
Oh yeah. That's a bizarre thing.
Conjugal visits. Yeah, that is weird.
Well, he wouldn't probably get conjugal visits.
No, probably.
Let's
probably
hope
not. Because they stopped giving those to people doing life. Because Tex Watson, he fathered all kinds of kids, and then the state of California said, "Hey, somebody introduced a bill and they made it law."
Right.
Because of Tex Watson. But so he's probably got a pretty decent life for him. He can read. He's not bugged. It's regimented. So. Not saying I don't want to spend my life in prison, because no, it's not fun.
No, but he's 6'9", so he's not worrying about somebody trying to make him his girlfriend.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of probably benefits to him being that big, and by all accounts, he's like a model prisoner, but he's not doing it.
And he's probably respected by the other prisoners.
Oh yeah,
or feared.
Yeah, feared, respect. He's got notoriety in prison. Yes. And even among the guards, they'll go, "Hey, that's Ed Kemper," and then they'll tell the other guard, "Who's Ed Kemper?" And they'll say, "Well, this is that." So he gets a reputation among staff too, as you just have infamous inmates that everybody talks about.
So the respect that he was denied on the outside, he's getting on the inside.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a country music song in that.
Didn't work for Jeffrey Dahmer, but it might work for
him. Yeah, well, you know what? I think Dahmer's had a whole lot of negative things going for him.
He used to threaten people while he was in prison to try and intimidate them.
Yeah, and I hate to sound like this, but he was openly gay, and that was probably not good for the inmate population that he went into. You know what I'm saying? Because that's still, even though they do it, it's still not accepted to be openly,
Well, what about the cannibalism? Because Kemper was, at one point, he said he was a cannibal, and then he said no, he wasn't. What was up with
I thought
that?
he ate the leg flesh or something.
I heard that he just mutilated and dismembered. I looked for something that said cannibal, and I didn't find it.
Yeah, I saw it wrote as a cannibal, but I didn't see anything about him eating the flesh of anybody. But that doesn't mean it wasn't there. I just didn't find it.
What I saw said that at one point in time he had said he was, but then later said he was lying about it.
Well, see, he would sound better if he wasn't, right? Like, oh no, I didn't eat them. No, I didn't eat them. Okay.
So I'm not as bad as that guy.
Yeah, I'm not as bad as Dahmer, man.
He eats his snouts in the trotters first.
Well, you know what I found really sad was I think it was the 15-year-old girl had locked him out of the car. I think that's the one. And locked him out of the car, and she had the gun in the car with her, and somehow he talked his way back in, and he killed her. I thought that's just sad. That's horrible, because she could have got away, or she could have shot him.
Well,
anything or got attention. Well, they're out in the middle of nowhere, but you know, it's just sad. It's just horrible.
Well, what about the co-ed? The one that he left in the car when he went and killed the other one? And he came back covered in blood? And he like told her, "Oh, well, she smarted off to me, so I hit her." And then in the interview I saw, he was like, "I never hit her. She did smart off to me, but I just killed her." It was like,
what's
yeah.
Please hit me, don't kill me.
But that he convinced her to let him
two at a time. The one he picked up the two hitchhikers.
Yeah, I think it was like his first kills, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was, and he put one in the trunk.
Yeah.
Then killed the other, and then went and got the other one out of the trunk.
The one that he did right after that, and I believe it was the 15-year-old, if I remember correctly.
The Asian girl, right?
Yeah.
Yes. That was the one where he went out drinking with her in the trunk.
What? I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Yep. He went. He basically.
I just watched it a half hour ago. That's why.
Yes, it was, and it was. Yeah, he basically had killed her off site, and then took her to the bar with him in the trunk, and went inside and went drinking with his buddy.
Oh, that's horrible.
With those cop buddies, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
I bet they felt bad about that.
Oh yeah.
How close he was with them or not, I'm not sure, but close enough where he knew what cop to ask for that would actually listen to him and take it seriously.
Yeah.
Well, how do you? I mean, somebody you drink with, I mean,
can't imagine they'd do something like that.
No, you can't. And even if you did, how would you approach it?
Right.
Yeah, because you never hear, man, that guy lived next door. He was creepy as, it's always, he was quiet, kept to himself,
Well,
yeah.
Hey, Eddie, how many corpses you got in your basement, bud? Yeah.
Did you see that interview where they were talking with the cops that were going to, they were answering a call or something about the gun? I can't remember. I was doing something. I don't remember this one very clearly, but they were at the wrong house. They asked the guy across the street, who happened to be Ed Kemper, and he got out of the car, and they knew he was a tall guy, and he unfurls from this car, and he's like 6'9", so they knew he was the right guy. And he said like he just happened to have like the wrong gun in the car or something. I can't remember, but I mean, it was just crazy. This guy just, I don't know. It's amazing to me that, oh, sorry. My new baby is driving my old babies very, very crazy.
Well, Heather, you and I had talked about that whole thing of him being able to convince people and how normal he looks. I mean, that's one of the things that's so scary is that he can talk to you, and it's just like you and I would have ended up in a barrel. I'm pretty sure of it, because we wouldn't have known like that this guy is freaky.
Well, he made the comment that the one girl got in the car and the second girl was looking at him.
Yep.
And she was very hesitant, and he could see her wheels working, and that's when he looked at that watch, like he had to be somewhere. And something about that just disarmed people, and they ended up getting in the car. And I thought to myself, I would have gotten in the car then. I don't, now obviously I wouldn't, but at 18, it would have probably influenced me to get in the car.
Yeah, he's got somewhere to go.
I'm not sure exactly where his mom worked, but she worked on campus. And one of the things when the co-eds started coming up missing is they said, stop taking rides from anybody who doesn't have a sticker. You want it to be somebody that is associated with our campus. Well, his mom worked on campus, so he had a sticker. So he would pick up women. He said he did 150 rides with women from that campus. And without doing anything.
Of them?
What was that?
And only killed 6 of them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going, I don't know what. I don't know if
when
I
you
believe
come
that
out-
is what I'm getting at. I think
But
they're
why
probably
would he
related.
hide any others? You know, I mean, that would make no sense either.
Well, they do though. It's really weird, you know, because if they killed 10, they probably killed 15, 20.
Yeah.
And it's really weird, Joe. I don't know why. It's like why they don't want to confess. Well, may probably makes them look bad or a negative light.
Sorry, Alex.
I just raped my
Come on.
mom's
I-
head.
I
How
don't look
much
at
worse
that.
can I look? You know, but I mean, it makes them an unfavorable light in their eyes, maybe, or it's a bone they have later on. They can say, "Hey, do this for me, and I'll tell you where these remains are, so this family can get some kind of closure." You see that happen, you know, once in a while. But usually, if they can tell you the number they killed, it's probably more. It's when they say, I don't know how many I killed. I can tell you 6, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and he admitted to giving probably 150 records. And he said there
Crazy.
was a time when he picked up a mom and her son hitchhiking, and he's like, they're in the car, and I was almost to the place where I was going to drop them off, and I saw these 2 girls. He goes, I think they had just got off the farm, and he was like, it was perfect for me to be able to do them. And he's like, but I just didn't have the rage in me. I just wasn't in the right mindset. So I just decided not to kill them.
Man.
Yeah.
And I was
crazy.
like, ugh. You know, he said there were times when I just wasn't in that kind of, he's like, but when I had a fight with my mom, and I wanted to kill anybody that got in my car.
Well, when did he start dismembering the people's bodies? Was that after he killed his mother?
No, that was before. He started dismembering them. It would have been about 63. Or I'm sorry, 60. No, that was 64 was when he did his grandparents. Sorry, I took notes, guys, because I was like, I got to get these years right. He started dismembering them about 72. And it started with those 2 females. And then the 15-year-old that he picked up later on, like a month later, that he buried her head in mom's garden. So it was right under her window. Then basically that was the first time but I mean, he started doing the cats and stuff when he was 10.
8.
8?
8. He started with cats.
He started stalking
I didn't see that. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? That was just what a couple of them said 10. So I know that he did it again when he was 13.
Yeah.
Well,
the Barbie doll started early too, tearing the heads off of dolls.
Yep.
You know, everything about this kid screams serial murderer. You know.
Yeah, no, right.
I mean,
but they, you know, back then they didn't have those triggers or cues or whatever you want to call them. Now we do. Now, you know, you're like, man, that kid's got to talk to somebody because, you know, he's got popsicle stick graveyard of cats in his backyard.
Well, and with Mindhunter, you know, he basically, that was where it came up with serial killers, and that was in the 70s. I mean, we didn't know a lot, and Ed Kemper was a part of the reason they were able to start profiling. And one of the most consistent one across the board, they used to say bedwetting too, but then they took that away because there were so many other factors that could go into bedwetting. But cruelty to animals across the board.
Yeah.
Isn't arson one too?
Fire starting, yes, that was another one.
That's so weird.
I mean, but that's not across the board. Like cruelty to animals was arson. Pretty darn consistent.
Yeah. I would think arson would be a completely different thing.
But it's weird. It's not. I mean, it's linked with a lot of these serial killers.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, because it is its own thing. You know, you have arsonists, they get off on watching things burn and watching.
I mean, everybody's got a little bit of pyro in them. I think it's human.
Oh, yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Especially when you're a teenager.
Bonfire or campfire. And
but I don't know how many things I've burnt as a grade school kid and a teenager. I'm looking at.
I don't know any human that doesn't love
I
that.
think that's different though than like burning somebody's house with someone inside it.
That is true.
Right.
Yeah, there might be a slight
That is
difference
true.
there. I'm not
So-
going to quibble over P's and Q's, you know.
Yeah.
Just like, all right, I got a little
Potato,
pyro in me. I don't know what you're trying to say.
It's just an odd thing that arson is tied into that. You know, I don't get it.
It was not just arson. It was like burning the cat, for example. Those kind of
burning
things.
the cat, burying the cat, then digging it up to play with it and taking its head and putting it on a pike. Yeah, he had
issues. That goes even beyond mutilating things and burning things for just to see what happens.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. That's a very different thing than I got a bunch of trash and I'm gonna go watch it all burn. That's cool. I mean, I think.
You know, I went to pick up a dead bird.
There's a bunch of cats in there.
Kid.
Right.
I went to pick up a dead bird when I was a kid. My dad said, "Oh, don't touch that. It's filled with lice and fleas."
Yeah.
And named all these things that it could be. And to this day, I get a glove on before I pick.
Oh, me too.
Absolutely.
My folks are always like that too. Those birds got so many diseases. My parents didn't talk like that, but that's what they said.
So digging up a cat that's been dead for a while and cutting its head off, and that's outside of my wheelhouse.
That takes a different person.
It does take a different kind of person. Ooh.
All right, guys. Well, what projects are y'all working on currently and what you have going on and coming up?
Joe?
I've combined all my books into the series that it was always meant to be, and that's coming out now. It's a 9-book series. I'm halfway through the 9th book, and when that's done, it's going to be a whole new world. So I'm working on that. It's called No Man's Land. It starts with the book Splinter, which just came out on Audible and paperback.
Oh, congratulations. Yay.
Thank you.
That's a good looking cover, and that new cover you have.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Who did that cover?
Tufo. Brian Schutt. Tracy Tufo, she's my publisher.
Oh, okay.
And somebody she hired, and then I use her editors too now, which is an experience I'm not used to. I'm used to going out and hiring editors, and she was a little bit more professional than what I'm used to. And the artist is just kind of does his own thing. He doesn't communicate much, which is good because I don't either. And so it's a nice experience working with Tracy and working with a publisher for a change.
Good.
Never done that before, so we'll see how she does. I'm hoping that I can get one of them on one of these podcasts here and maybe do an interview, but we'll see. Let's see.
Cool.
Maybe I think I have to sell a bunch of books for her and make her some money first. Making people money seems to have a lot more effect than just, please, would ya?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Alan, what you got going on?
Oh,
birthday boy.
I got, I'm working on that Vela thing. I just put a new chapter out yesterday.
I know. I get alerts. I'm reading.
We need more. We need more alerts. You're not going to like this. The last 2 chapters, you're not going to like. Anyway, and working on Operation Zulu 4, trying to get that one done. Trying to get that one book done for Silent Studios. My writing's just been kind of tanking lately, so I got to get back into it. But that's about doing the podcast stuff and watching Wyrd, and that's about it. Just nothing like Joe, where Joe's actually got people that love him and will pay to have his stuff out there.
Love me? I don't think it has anything to do with love. He doesn't even know me.
That's probably why she loves you.
I don't think she even knows I'm white. Oh wait, my name's Joseph Hansen. She knows I'm
white. What did you say, Hadley?
I was saying that Joe's actually doing the Wyrd Ink sessions now with Morgana, so we're going to be seeing a lot more of him too.
Yeah.
This will be our first Fringe FM episode that this is on, and then every other week we'll be doing Wyrd Inc., and then we'll be doing Wyrd Murders, Mysteries, and Mayhem, and then Wyrd Inc. So we're going to be every other week.
Nice.
Joe will be on every week, just about.
Nice, Joe.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
I'll have fun with this. You know, I've spent many years teaching myself how to write, and that's been my focus. So I haven't done anything with reaching out and marketing or anything like that. Well, I'm about a year away from retirement, so now I better get out there and start marketing and, you know, getting out and talking to people and being, you know, showing that I'm not such a stick in the mud, that type of thing, you know. And
aren't you glad?
I might find out that I actually am the stick in the mud.
You're not. We know that stick, and it's not you.
You were on to you. You're not.
And he was a Luddite. I had to drag his ass into the daylight here, into modern technology.
I'm kind of riding on Alan's coattails. Alan and I have actually met in person, and
I'll be riding on yours, man. No, but I'm glad you joined. I'm glad you joined up, and I'm glad you're having a good time with it.
I'm glad you brought me along because, you know, I love Phalanx Press. Alan and I were the first two people chosen to be in Phalanx Press by John Mundy, and we've had a good time with it, and we have the greatest respect for those people. But, you know, they're so wrapped up in things politically, and Alan and I really aren't, that we just kind of get left by the wayside. I mean, we shout out jokes when they get so political, and they tend to just ignore us.
It's going its own way right now, which is,
you know, and I have no doubt they'll get together because, you know, we've gotten together with J.L. Bourne and WJ and Rich Baker, and they're great guys. They're a lot of fun to hang out with, and, you know, but you know, it's good to go a different direction. We don't have to abandon them. We can still be a part of them and go our own way, you know.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
I mean, I'm really enjoying what Hadley's got going on with the Wyrd thing. I know that she's ran into a few sour grapes here and there, and I don't think I will be one, and I don't think Alan will be one. So I think we'll all get along pretty good.
I just snorted because y'all are so far from sour grapes.
Well, I want to tell everybody, this whole Wyrd thing was my idea.
That was Alan's idea. I totally piggybacked on it.
I spelled it different. I spelled it with an I and an E.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But. Actually,
I'm just along for
I think we need to talk.
Isn't that Wyrd Realities?
I'm just along for the ride. I just want to see where it goes, where we go with this thing.
No, we should have fun with it, you know. And if I make a fool of myself, that's okay. I don't care. You know, I think there's a lot of good things going on, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm also glad to be a part of this. I feel like I just joined everything.
We're glad you did.
I'm working on. This is my first podcast, and so it was a lot of fun. And thank you very, very much, guys, for being a part of the panel and for participating. And Hadley.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think we're going to have a lot of fun researching the true crime and talking about it. I'm going to throw in some weird murders and weird phenomenon stuff into it as well. But we're going to have a good time. Then, let me see. Well, in 2 weeks, Scott Baker, Rich Restucci, and Morgana are going to join us to discuss the March 31st, 1922 murders of the 6 inhabitants of a small Bavarian homestead that's located outside of Munich, Germany, by an unknown assailant. It is one of my favorite head scratchers. I can't wait to see what Rich and Scott and Morgana come up with. I know Jen and I are going to have a good time. And we'll have a new topic for y'all soon. So be thinking about what you want to talk about, and we'll get on it. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll have Jamie Hernandez back on because Jamie wasn't able to be on tonight, and Finley Jones, and we will be talking about the first serial killer that was on the internet. He was using Craigslist for finding
Yep.
finding
And that was in Kansas City, my hometown right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah. And that was the guy that put them in barrels. That's why I always say we're going to end up in barrels.
He was Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas.
Correct.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Missouri is the only place to be. No Kansas.
Oh, I guess it is your hometown then.
All right, guys.
Before you go, be sure to leave us a comment and let our Wyrd team know how they're doing. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us to get notifications when we add new content. We are adding new content 3, 4, and sometimes 5 times a month. If you want to keep the conversation going or would like to learn more about our panel of hosts, be sure to check out our link tree. That's linktr.ee/Wyrd Realities. It links to our official Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and website.